Tere! Hello! Täna on meil külas Francisco Sánchez Molina, kes on Soomest. Today we have guest Francisco Sánchez Molina. He's from the Wolf Action Group from Helsinki. Hello!
Hello!
Thank you for coming. Could you please introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I'm an animal rights activist, and I work in Finland doing animal advocacy, particularly for large predators. And we are a small NGO focused on raising awareness of the importance of large carnivores for the ecosystems, and also doing political advocacy work to grant them rights to be protected from human activity.
Mm-hmm. What is the problem exactly in Finland?
Well, basically the situation is that wolves and other predators, basically bears, lynx and wolverines, they are being hunted to protect certain interests, usually economic interests. So we have a really poor ecosystem balance of species because of the protecting of farming and hunting interests.
Mm-hmm. And how long is the Wolf Action Group and also you been working with that topic?
My organization was founded in 1943, so quite a long time ago. The Wolf Action Group is part of a larger organization called Luonto-Liiton, which translates as the Nature League. And we specialize in environmental education for young people. That is the core of our activities. But we also do environmental activism. And the Wolf Action Group is an action group for protecting large carnivores, and we just recently celebrated our 25th anniversary. And so we have been doing this for a while, and the situation has gotten better, but still it's not good. We still have a lot of work to do in terms of educating the general public about the importance, ecological importance of predators for having a balanced ecosystem and a working ecosystem, but also about the intrinsic value of animals, because the root of the problem is that animals and nature in general is treated as a resource. It's just a commodity, an object. So animals are hunted for pleasure, basically for recreational purposes, sometimes for subsistence purposes, but that's the really small minority of the cases. So animals are really not respected, as we have seen in this major ecological crisis that we are going through. This has to change, otherwise the biodiversity, the ecosystem in which we are part of will not function.
Mm-hmm. One big part is information and where people get their information. Where do you get your information and the numbers? Because very often, for example, here in Estonia, we get a lot of information from the hunters, and some of them, of course, want to get this hunting license, and then it's good to have bigger numbers. So I guess it is always important to realize where the info comes from. So that's why I asked.
Yeah, it's a very good point. It's the situation is different in every country, and here in Finland there is the Nature Resources Institute, which is called Luke. And they have a team of experts collecting data about the population numbers of different species, and they use the help of volunteers quite much. And in many cases, the majority of them, the volunteers, are hunters.
Mm-hmm. And how do you know then which numbers to trust, or how do you make your decisions?
Well, this is done solely by this institute, the LUKE. They are the ones who decide on the numbers, and mm-hmm. They have their own system for figuring out the margin of error that they could consider, and the validity of the data. I don't have any particular inside information about how they do this. There's been a lot of controversy in terms of the accuracy of the numbers from all sides. It's not just conservation or nature protection controversies, also from the hunters' side. They also do not trust fully what the work is the work that is being done. So there's a lot of at the same time, I think that kind of takes us away from the actual core issue. It's not about how many, because nature balances itself if you let it be. If you leave nature alone, it will reach equilibrium. The problem is the attitude that humans have in general, that we think we have to control nature, that we think we have the need to manage these animals. But that's not true. Animals have inbuilt mechanisms to control their own populations, especially predators. Not many people know that predators regulate themselves because they are on top of the food chain. So nature has provided these species with internal mechanisms to control their own numbers for their own sake. And this is unfortunately still not known by public. People think that if you don't control wolves or bears, that the population will grow exponentially, and we will have some kind of imbalance or even a problem towards humans. But this is not the case. Predators are territorial animals, and their density is very low. There's many square kilometers per pack, pretty much around 1,000 square kilometers per wolf pack. And this is a really big area, much bigger than Helsinki, just for one wolf pack. So you can imagine the low density of these animals. Mm-hmm. And to give you an idea of the scale of the situation, currently in Finland, we have only about 300 wolves. Only 300 wolves in the whole of Finland. So this is basically nothing. And still many people, many groups of particular interest, they complain about how many wolves we have. So they make problem where there is none. And to put it into perspective, we have about 85,000 moose in Finland, 85,000, and around 125,000 white-tailed deer. So you can see that the imbalance of the situation. We don't have pretty much predators at all, and we have a huge amount of herbivores that are causing at the same time quite many ecological problems, and also accidents, traffic accidents, where a lot of people get injured and even die every year because of crashes with these hunted animals. So if we want to speak about numbers, we should speak about those numbers as well. The huge imbalance that we have nowadays.
But the number you said, the 300 wolves, when did it come so low number?
Yeah, I can show you quickly a graph to give you an idea of how this happened. This is from a presentation I gave actually for Loomuse to the International Animal Futures Conference this summer. And this is a graph that put things very, very clearly. I hope you can see it.
Yes.
Well, I can make it a bit bigger. So we used to have quite many thousands of wolves in the 1880s, around the 1850s, let's say. Even up to 4,000 wolves were killed every year. So you can imagine how many wolves we had in Finland. But then around the beginning of the 1880s, there was a policy of persecution that was installed by officials. It was legally enforced to kill wolves, and people were being paid bounties, which is a monetary reward for shooting wolves on sight. So this meant that anyone, anywhere, could and should kill a wolf. So this really caused a collapse in the wolf population. The Finnish wolf numbers really dramatically were reduced to almost extinction. You can see barely no wolves at all for decades. Pretty much, we could say for almost 100 years, really no wolves at all in Finland. So this was really a very, very dramatic reduction of wild animals. And this happens to coincide with the establishment of the hunting organization, the Hunting Association in Finland. So this is a very, very, I will stop sharing my screen. Very stark drop in the state of Finnish nature, and the situation hasn't changed that much. The bounties were stopped in the 1970s. The official policy of persecution stopped.
This picture showed that it happened in 20 years. Was it so? Like,
yeah, very, very briefly, the population collapsed, and wolves were shot pretty much in contests. And the culture in those times was that people were considered some kind of hero if they were shooting wolves. And there are many, many newsreels showing wolf hunts in those times. And the people doing that, they are portrayed as some kind of saviors of nature. So this was really a time of persecution of wild animals to protect the livelihoods of peoples in those times, because these were hard times in many ways, really difficult times for people living in the countryside, especially. So somehow the wild animals were scapegoated for these hard times, and farmers using animals as their source of income, they were kind of downloading all the frustrations and problems on the wild animals. Yeah. And this has changed in many ways for the better, but still the mentality that farm animals should be able to roam freely in the land, it's still going on. Farmers don't want to use preventive measures, which nowadays we do have, and they are very efficient. They don't want to use them because they still have the same mentality that sheep and reindeer and cows, they should be freely roaming in the pastures. And of course, this creates the conditions for conflict with wild animals. Mm-hmm. So we don't have persecution of wild animals officially, but still under the table, the mentality hasn't changed that much yet.
Mm-hmm. So I see that this is the most important work to do, to change that mentality so that wolves are not the enemy, basically. Exactly. And it is possible to protect your sheeps, let's say, with some kind of measures that people do not see the need. And if there is a wolf, then we should shoot it, not to prevent. Yeah, okay. But how is it? Is it really so many problems with wolves, let's say, because the number is so small?
Yeah, it's a very good point, because the problems, the damages to farmers are quite small in Finland. For example, especially we're talking about sheep farms, it's less than 1% of the losses that they have. Less than 1% are attributed to wolves or large carnivores. So it's minimal. They have much bigger losses by disease or other kind of accidents. So the real problem is more the mentality that people are used to having landscapes with no predators. Because you saw the graph, pretty much we exterminated the wolves in Finland, and this is very similar to many other European countries, the same situation. So the farmers got used to having landscapes with no predators at all. So now that wolves and other large carnivores are slowly coming back, there is kind of friction of the extra effort that has to be done to be able to coexist with these newcomers, which were not new. They were here before us, actually, but they are now slowly returning thanks to the new legislation afforded by the European Union. So, which actually I should mention that it was thanks to Finland joining the European Union that these animals were strictly protected. So if there's one thing we should think about the European legislation, is the protection of nature, the serious protection in terms of legislation.
Mm-hmm. Can you describe a little bit what that protection means, or what did that legislation change there?
Yeah. Basically, the legal protection offered by European legislation is for strict protection of important species for the European environment, and they select which are species of interest to protect based on a different criteria. And this means that for Finland, large carnivores are strictly protected. So in practice, you cannot hunt any large carnivores. The only situation where you can shoot these animals is when there have been any damages, economic damages, serious economic damages, or threats to the public safety. So these are very, very exceptional situations, and these killing permits should be very rare. Mm-hmm. But the reality is different. These exceptional permits nowadays are being used by the Finnish authorities as some kind of management tool, and this is not according to what the legislation says. The killing permit should be the very last resort, when you have tried other alternatives like fences, like lights and sounds, and scaring away the animals. So you should try all these preventive measures before you actually decide, okay, nothing can be done, we have tried everything, the only thing we can do is to hunt this or kill this problematic quote-unquote animal. And since you mentioned the damages, I can share with you also a slide to give you an idea of what are the actual damages mm-hmm. in Finland. And this is from a study we did in 2018, showing, analyzing all the hunting permits, all these exceptional hunting permits, what actually are the reasons given by the people who request those permits. And you can see that the majority of the hunting permits are requested not because of economic damages, but because someone has seen a wolf somewhere. So these are permits that are given because a wolf has been seen in some residential near urban areas, or crossing some countryside fields. So basically the underlying justification is that people are afraid. So the huge majority of the hunting permits are given just because of people's fear. And of course, fear is not a scientific argument. This is a very subjective reason that is actually not contemplated in the legislation. And still permits are given under this reason. And you can see
it is like this story. Kids, all the kids read that, where this wolf is always seen as someone very bad or frightening. So we should basically tell other stories to kids.
Yeah, of course, if we talk about fear, this is where education comes in. And this is a big part of the work that has to be done, and it's not being done by the authorities. They have to educate, they have to give information to the people living in the countryside of the real threat that these animals pose, because there hasn't been any confirmed attacks on humans for the last 100 years in Europe. Mm-hmm. So there's no threat of these animals towards people, and on the contrary, there are studies showing that even bees and wasps are much more dangerous to humans than wolves. So there is a real big need of facts and credible information to calm people's concerns about these animals, especially because wolves are very shy animals. They want to be left alone. And also because many times young wolves, they are very inexperienced, and they are just trying to find their way. They can be seen crossing residential areas, trying to establish their own territories. Sometimes they can be very curious animals and go nearer human residential areas, but this doesn't mean that they are dangerous. So we have to really understand that habituation, that the fact that these animals get used to the presence of humans, this is not a cause for danger or concern. This has to be accepted as part of a normal ecosystem, that these animals will be present. So what we have to do is to learn ways to coexist peacefully with these animals. And taking a look at this graph, you will see that also one of the biggest reasons for giving hunting permits is the damages to hunting, which means that the wolves are shot because they are seen as competition for moose and deer, which are the species that hunters like to shoot in the forests. So an ecological important species is being shot just to protect the interests of people who enjoy shooting animals in the forests. And this is a hobby, and is given precedence to the protection of nature, and especially to the protection of an endangered and strictly protected species by law. So you can see how difficult situation we have, in which there is a clear unbalance in the interests that are being protected are not the ones that should be protected.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, this makes quite puzzled feelings that people just get the hunting license, should we say killing license, because they just want it, although these animals are or should be protected. How many these licenses people get every year? How many wolves are killed every year in Finland?
Well, it varies a lot. It depends a lot on the year, but people get shooting permits from the wildlife agency. Also, there are permits used by the police for security reasons. And recently, there was the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry, which for some reason is the one in charge of protecting wolves and predators. They have been trying to get quota hunting for these animals, for wolves. And last December, they gave the permission to shoot around 18 animals just for the sake of it. No special reason, just to have a quota to shoot these animals and to avoid the bureaucratic hurdles of asking for permits and analyzing the data. So they said, okay, to make it easier, we'll just give a quota every year to shoot a certain number of animals. But this was clearly against the law. This was a serious violation of the European legislation, and many local organizations were able to appeal those decisions in the local courts. And all the nature protection organizations, we all joined forces. There was a huge outcry in the media, in the traditional media, the newspapers, and also on the social media. Twitter was really bursting with people speaking out of the injustice of shooting animals with no reason at all. One example, there was this wolf pack living in the east in a very remote area, really forested area, bothering no one. They were really minding their own business. This wolf pack was a stable, well, hopefully still is, a stable wolf pack, you know, sustaining themselves by hunting their prey, bothering no one. And still the ministry gave a permit to shoot that pack. And it was a huge wake-up moment for Finland, because this was when we all saw the real underground motives for the ministry and all the authorities involved in protecting or managing the wild animals in Finland, which is basically allowing the hunting of these animals for recreation purposes. This is not done on ecological principles and not even scientific reasons. This is basically all the justifications, all the arguments that are presented are just to disguise the fact that these animals are hunting because people find it pleasurable activity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. The trophy hunting is probably the name what has been used around the world, where people have this tourism. When they go to different countries to hunt animals, they maybe can't hunt in their countries. Is the wolf hunting also like trophy hunting?
Well, it's a very interesting topic, because when you mention trophy hunting, the image that people get is, okay, lions and elephants in Africa. That's kind of the traditional image that you get when you mention that term. But in reality, trophy hunting is much more than that. Trophy hunting is recreational hunting, and on the side you get maybe some kind of souvenir from the hunt. Many cases, depending on the species, depending on the animal, the hunters get some kind of a part of the animal. It can be a skin, can be even the head or the horns. So it depends a lot of the animal we're talking about. But if you analyze the actual activity of shooting animals for recreational purposes or for sport, as they also call it, the motivation is killing for pleasure. So pretty much killing any other animal that you will not eat, that you don't need to eat for survival, is recreational hunting. You have to have a really, really good reason for shooting an animal. First of all, for subsistence. It has to be that level that you have. There's no other way for you to survive than killing that animal. Otherwise, it's ethically, it's unjustifiable. So here in Scandinavia, in the northern countries, many people come to Scandinavia to shoot these animals. For example, in Sweden, there are companies offering the killing of bears, and you pay a quota, you pay some fee, and then they take you to where the bear is, and they will have arranged all the legal the bureaucratic procedures so that this hunt is legal, and people can come from all over the world to shoot that bear. And you can even they organize it for you that you can even take some part of the bear, you can take it home. So they know the loopholes, the legal loopholes, and it's becoming an industry now, a trophy hunting industry. And of course, you have the illegal hunting, which is a massive problem in Scandinavia. So it's pretty much the biggest cause of mortality for these animals is illegal hunting. And so on top of the legal permits to shoot these animals, on top of that, we have the illegal killings. And for example, in Sweden, around 50% of the animals that are killed, it's done illegally. In Finland, it's around 30% of these animals are every year shot illegally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have heard at least in Estonia that if there will not be licenses, then we will still kill illegally. Yeah. So better give us licenses.
Well, the end result is the same. The animal will die legally or illegally. And actually, this justification that we need legal license to get rid of illegal ones is actually creating the need for poaching. You know, it's actually promoting poaching because it's the way they will get their legal licenses, by poaching. So it's not solving anything. And on top of this, there are many scientific studies showing that legal hunting of animals does not decrease illegal hunting. It just perpetuates the same vicious circle. And of course, the view of the necessity or even the correctness of shooting animals is perpetuated. You know, if it's okay to shoot legally animals, why isn't it okay to shoot them without a permit? The end result is the same.
Yeah, that is very good. This what you said, that legal hunting does not decrease illegal hunting.
Yes.
If it's possible, then later maybe you can share some material that I can add because it is good to
yeah, there's many studies.
Yeah, exactly. But now the third topic we will discuss now is if animal rights are really radical. We have talked today about wolves, but just in general, how do you see the idea of animal rights in general, and how it is connected to your work with wolves?
Yeah, it's a very important topic because animal rights is the idea that surrounds our work. Sorry, give me a second because there's thunderstorm and my dog is getting afraid. Yes, so animal rights, it's very much underlying the work that we do, because what we have to create is the understanding that animals, they have an intrinsic value. It's not only an instrumental value that the services they may provide for the ecosystems, or even the utility they would have for humans, but the main point that we have to get across is that animals, they have a right to exist, just like humans. We are one more species among the millions. So the concept of animal rights is I think is the biggest challenge of humanity right now, and it's at the core of all the problems that we are experiencing right now, all the crises, the extinction of species, the loss of nature, climate change, and even the pandemias that we are experiencing right now. The underlying problem is that we do not respect nature, that we see nature as a resource, as a commodity, as an object. So answering to your question, if animal rights is radical, I would answer this: is human rights radical? Is women's rights radical? People of color's rights radical? So I think we can all agree that they are pretty much essential. So if we are against racism, if we are against xenophobia, if we are against all these narrow views, why would we be against discrimination of species? We are all animals. We all share the same capacity to feel pain. We all have capacity for experiencing joy, pleasure, emotions. So if it's not okay to discriminate someone because of their sex or because of their color, why is it okay to discriminate someone because of their species or how they look or how many legs they have or how furry they are?
Yeah, it is interesting that some animals, or towards some animals, it is not okay to be abusive. For example, dogs or cats.
Yeah.
Or in some cultures, like here in Nordic countries or Europe, we usually do not eat dogs, or people.
Yeah.
Many people usually do not eat dogs, but they eat some other animals. So it seems it also depends on the animal species, how they are, because also in the forest.
Exactly. Yeah, if people would be found, if someone was found doing to a dog what they do to a wolf, they would be in jail.
Mm-hmm.
But it's dog, it's considered, you know, some kind of a different classification, family member, which is a good thing, of course. But this is a wolf, it's a wild animal, then it doesn't apply. So even that logic, it's really not, it doesn't make any sense, even in their own terms, you know. So it's a very anthropocentric view of the world, you know, humans on top and the rest of species just to serve our needs. But even in that illogical mentality, there's some contradictions, which, as you mentioned, dogs and cats, they have a different status in that.
Yeah. And also, yeah, it depends. For example, people take pets, like some fishes maybe, or some smaller animals they have, or people have zoos. So it's all using other species for our pleasure, so to say.
Yeah, we use them and for pleasure and also for instrumental purposes. And one example would be in Finland and in Scandinavia, the use of hunting dogs. And it's a really big problem, because for many hunters, the main reason for shooting wolves for them is that wolves attack hunting dogs.
Mm-hmm.
So they say, I cannot practice my hobby, my my tradition is being affected. My dog has been attacked, so the wolf has to die. But of course, the problem is that you are using a dog for your hobby, which the first instance, it shouldn't happen, you know, exploiting an animal for a human pastime. But on top of that, we are talking about hunting dogs, and you know how many hunting dogs we have in Finland? Mm-hmm. Let's just talk about the registered ones, okay? The hunting dogs that are registered on the Kennel Association is around 83,000. Okay, so compare 83,000 dogs to 300 wolves, and still, to protect hunting dogs, wolves are being shot. So the core issue, like you mentioned, is that we are using animals for human purposes. Animal exploitation, again, animal rights at the core of the problems.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you. Is there something else you would like to share what I did not ask, or where our talk didn't go?
Yeah, basically, I think to drive this discussion into a little larger perspective, larger scale, is that veganism is growing. You know, concern for animals is growing, and scientific information is growing. We have had very recently many successes, especially in Europe. You know, fur farming is being banned in many countries, and Estonia is there at giving very good example of how Europe could look for animals. The banning on the chemical testing on animals is also being banned. Now we have currently a European Citizens Initiative to finally make sure that chemicals and tests on animals will not be done for cosmetics. And if people are not aware, please check it out. It's now on the final stage of collecting signatures. Please sign it and share it. So we have had many successes for protecting animals in Europe. The European Commission is now funding all the costs of preventive measures for farmers. They are financing all the extra economic burden that people could have to suffer because of the presence of predators. So this is a very big step, you know, to get all the expenses paid just to be able to coexist with wild animals. We have the legislation, the protection, the legal protection of nature now in place. But still, what doesn't change is the attitude. We are still living with the mentality of hundreds of years ago. You know, this graph that showed us the bounties, the persecution of wolves, the mentality is still very much the same, that it's okay to shoot animals. And at the same time, the mentality of eating animals, it's still hundreds of years ago. So the attitude of how to feed ourselves isn't changing. We are now living in modern times. We are using, you know, video conferencing to communicate ourselves. We are using, you know, internet and mobile phones and flying on airplanes, but still we are eating as cavemen, you know, shooting animals for eating ourselves, when we now have all the other huge possibilities for feeding ourselves in an ethical and environmental way. So unless this changes, unless this doesn't change, the problem will still be the same, and we will be just putting out fires here and there. But the root of the problem is that we have to move on. The way to feed ourselves has to change. And now we have plant-based alternatives, and we have cultured meat alternatives. We have now all the nutritional information saying that we don't need to eat animals to be healthy or even to thrive. We actually have worse situation by eating animals, where the health issues, the environmental issues, the ethical issues, everything is now being shown to be negative when you consume animals. So this is to round things up, this is what has to change. We have to change the way we feed ourselves.
Thank you. With that idea, it is very good to finish our talk, I think. Thank you, Francisco, for sharing your thoughts. Thank you for all the work you do. And thank you, everyone who took the time to listen and think, and see you next time.
Thank you as well. See you.